thank you all for joining Portland Ovations today for this launch of the exciting new commissioning program for Maine artists. We are looking forward to the questions from the media and also let you hear our artists speak for themselves. But in the meantime, I'm here on behalf of the board and the staff of Portland Ovations, and I have to tell you, this is the arts at its finest. When the pandemic first hit and everything shut down, it did make all of us dig deep. And I think what has come out of it, as far as the creativity, the resilience, the power of the arts, you will hear today. At Ovations, we saw an opportunity. We don't get a chance always to highlight what we have right here in Maine. And what we have are outstanding artists in so many different genres. And so we looked at this as an opportunity to show, not just locally, but nationally and internationally, the brilliance of work being done here. And so it's an honor that we have these artists who are entrusting us to invest in their work, to share their vision and dreams with us. What a leap of faith in us. And we thank you for that trust. We look forward to working together. We cannot wait to see the results of what you are doing here. I just want to briefly read something and then I want to pass it on to Amy, but I just read a beautiful piece written about leadership. It was written about a local leader of ours, but it really sort of sums up for me what we can do here today. It talks about leadership and about how your light goes on even when you are gone. The way we still see the glow of stars, long extinguished, light years away, how still they help us find our way. I believe the work that is being done now by these brilliant artists is that light that will lead us now and for many generations to come. So thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you for the projects that we have the gift of receiving. I'd now like to actually pass it on to Amy Petrin, Portland Ovations Executive and Artistic Director, to talk more about this commissioned Maine Artist Project. Thank you, Amy.
All right, thank you, Mary Ellen, and thank you everybody for being here. As Mary Ellen mentioned, this is the most exciting moment, I think, for Ovations and probably our 90-year history. We are announcing today the commissioning of 5 artist projects who will be creating work now to share with all of us over the next 2 years. And while it's always imperative that we support artists in their work, and especially the creation of new work, right now, investing in our artists is absolutely vital. I am thrilled and humbled, and I just got the goosebumps that I get when things were very special, to announce that we have an exciting cohort of artists in this first round, including dance maker Riley Watts, musician Samuel James, playwright Dee Clark, playwright, songwriters, and musicians Karem Durdog and Andy Happel. We are also partnering with the Abbey Museum and their director and senior partner to the Wabanaki Nations, Chris Newell. Together, we'll be partnering on a co-creation of Wabanaki storytelling presentation for families and young audiences. So while Ovations has been commissioning artists for over a decade, this is our most ambitious commissioning initiative to date in scope, the diversity of projects and artists, and the expansiveness of time and scale. This initiative is so ambitious that it's taken board, staff, and our community partners to get to this point. All have shared in considering and offering artists that they think are worthy of this moment. And I want to put a special shout out to our friends at Indigo Arts Alliance, who let us know about Dee Clark's current project, and with whom also Samuel James is in residence this coming winter. This is a multi-talented group that includes songwriters, composers, and musicians, choreographers and movers, poets, writers, and playwrights, and artists who work in film, animation, and sculpture. They are artists, activists, and advocates, each of them uniquely talented to give voice to the stories of our time and our communities, and to offer beauty and contemplation as only can happen through art. And with that, I'm thrilled to turn the virtual mic over so we can hear from some of these artists directly. And I'm going to start with Karem Durdog to tell us about his project.
Humbled and excited to be here. Thank you to Portland Ovations for giving us all the opportunity to actually express ourselves. I'm Karem Durdog. I'm talking on behalf of my collaborator, Andy Happel, who's teaching music right now. I am a playwright, songwriter, troublemaker, and occasional activist. The project that we're working on is a musical, but not just any musical. It's a musical that has visual, oral spoken word, and a movie embedded into it. This is a story about the immigrant experience, an experience that I have lived and millions and millions of others have lived over the many years. And this will be a journey of storytelling, and the storytelling hopes to illuminate the various trials, tribulations, adventures immigrants go through, and do so hopefully in a very honest, transparent, and joyful fashion. The goal being to affect the narrative of the arc of the immigrant experience, to try to get to the root of what is beautiful and what is foundationally an elemental part of our country and society. So that's what we hope to accomplish. It'll be a great 2-year adventure. I'm enormously excited to be on part of it.
Thanks, Karem. Let's turn it over to Samuel James.
Oh, thank you, Amy. Thank you, Karem. I can't believe I have to follow speaking about that. My project is, so I'm a musician. My name is Samuel James. I perform American roots music, primarily African-American folk music. My project is about home and the feeling of where all this music comes from in America. My family is biracial. The black side of my family comes from East Texas. As far back as you can trace that. Before that, who knows, because it's slavery and it's receipts. But the white side of my family comes from Maine, from far before it was a state. And there is a folk music tradition on each side of my family that both sides of my family were very deeply involved in. So the project that I'm doing is I am taking folk songs in each tradition, and I am making 2 recordings of 3 songs. Each song will be recorded solo with a solo instrument, and also as a full band. And the full band will be me, and I will be recording them to really push the theme of home. I'll be recording them all from my home.
All right. Thanks, Samuel. Let's go to Riley, I think, who's also maybe in a car.
I am. I'm actually in a truck. My name is Riley Watts. I am a multidisciplinary dance artist living in South Portland. My project is based around dance. It starts with dance, but it goes into different media. I'm planning on making a hybrid live event with a video component in some fashion. My plan right now is to build a choreographic work on video by recording individual dance artists or movers artists in Portland, and then taking the individual solo videos and layering them on top of each other to build a group choreography, but built of spaces where the dancers were actually by themselves. So there's no group rehearsal time, very distant friendly, and so hopefully I'm going to be building this dance choreography video, and then transferring it back into a live context and projecting it very, very large on some walls or some screens. And I also work with sculpture. I typically make my own music for these things. So it's a way of hopefully after such a long year of isolation, thinking about the way that we find home in ourselves. So whatever happens, my hope is that people, audiences consuming this art that I make, that we make, will be felt in the body somehow, even if it's on video, even if it's on your phone, even if it's live in the space. That's the dream so far. So
Thank you, Riley. And we're going to go on to Dee Clark. Dee, you're muted still. Can you turn yourself off mute? There you go. I do that all the time.
Hi, everybody. Thank you, Portland Ovation. And thank you for the press that showed up. I'm very excited. It's a great opportunity for me. My name is Dee Clark, and my project is a play that I wrote. And it's written based on a testimony I gave back in 2014 to the Maine Civil Rights Commission and the Maine Human Rights Commission around sex trafficking. And so I took that testimony and turned it into a script about my own experience of that happening to me. So it's exciting to be able to say it. I've been telling my story and sharing it with other survivors for a very long time. And then in the advocacy work I do, I get to talk about it and try to shape policy. But now to have, hopefully, the dream is a full production of this, to not just come to see what happens, to understand the root causes in a different way, to see the lives of the very people that are doing the harm and the lives of the people that are being harmed, and have a thought, at least a moment of a thought, that how did that person get there? Not just what happened to me, but how did the person get there to do such a thing? But anyway, I could go on and on and on. I'm very excited to answer questions, and thank you. And the play is The Last Girl, because we're always last: Black, brown, indigenous, female, young, and transgender.
Thank you, Dee. And Chris, you get to wrap it up.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for being here. Sorry for my late arrival. I'm looking forward to working with Portland Ovations. I am the Senior Director and, Executive Director and Senior Partner to Wabanaki Nations for the Abbey Museum in Bar Harbor. I'm a Passamaquoddy tribal citizen, and I'll be working with Portland Ovations on bringing some Passamaquoddy performance art, music, as well as spoken word to the stage, and doing a little cross with Western music as well. So this is some new territory for Wabanaki music to be in. We'll be bringing the artist to you in the future very soon, and I'm really very much looking forward to this very exciting project.
Great. Thank you, Chris. So one of the things I just want to highlight that you heard often was the concept of home and the theme of home, which is at the root of this commissioning project, because we are all home, but it's also about our relationship to this state, our relationship to ourselves and our spaces. So I just wanted to highlight that because I heard it so often from the beautiful descriptions. So we are open for questions now, whether there are questions from our media partners, hopefully. And you're welcome to question anybody on the panel.
I just want to say it's really nice and sunny outside.
Thanks, Karem.
And we have a question from Kevin Fowler. Katie, would you promote Kevin so he can join us on screen? Here comes Kevin.
Hello. I need to start my recording again before anybody goes to answer that question.
And I'll let you ask the question yourself once you're ready, Kevin.
Okay.
Lots of technology at work.
Oh yeah, we've been doing this for about 8 months now.
So haven't we?
Yeah. The question that I wrote was basically why is this project so important right now? I mean, obviously the answer seems obvious, but I just need somebody to kind of address why this is going to be a good thing, why this is important for people now. And I mean, not just for the public, but also for the artists.
Yeah, let's hear from one of the artists first. I think that's would be key. Karem or Sam?
Yeah,
Riley?
I think it's important because humanity is in need of understanding what it means to be each other. And I think it also needs to affirm the fact that as human beings, there are nuances associated with not just the life we lead, but the life others lead altogether. And for me, I think it's important to tell the story. You know, I'm Turkish, I'm Pakistani, I'm here in Maine. Luck, fortitude, crazy circumstances allowed me to be here. But the thing is, there are millions and millions and millions of these stories. And I think they need to be told. Part of it is to allow us to get together, to convene together, to have conversations. And the other thing is to allow us to express what is elementally necessary. What is the light that carries us through some dark times? And society is in need of understanding that the tropes, the perceptions, the biases that have existed that affect the storytelling need to evolve. And they need to evolve in a direction that is authentic. And so for me, that is the thrust, together with Andy, to be able to tell this story in a uniquely American format using elements from the Middle East and the subcontinent. And I think that's the ingredient, right? I don't think we live in a world that's only defined by national borders. We don't. As much as we want to, we don't. And for me, that's a manifestation of this. And I think it needs to exist. So that's the thrust that comes from myself and Andy.
I would add that, right along with what Curtin's saying, is that they're when you think about Mainers, I think when most of the people in the country think about Mainers, maybe when most of the people in the state think about Mainers, you don't think about people who look like me. I'm not the person who pops into your mind. Though my family was here before the state. But I would also add, I think also piggybacking off what he said, is that when we think about art, I think the thing we miss a lot of times is that the most beautiful, the most expressive, the most affecting art comes from the most oppressed people, and that art itself is a political statement, though we like to sort of pretend it's just pretty colors sometimes. And I think to me, showing this sort of route of the music in the state, but also as it connects throughout America, I think it shows that we're all a little bit closer than we like to think we are.
Thank you, Samuel. Anybody have something to add? Riley, I see you coming off mic.
Yeah. And that it's been things are really intense right now. Things have been intense for a long time for a lot of people. And this year, it's just with COVID, with politics, with everything going on right now, I think there's everything that's intense going on, plus not being able to be with people physically and not being able to perform, not being able to have much for public events. I don't know. I feel a bit like the creative practice for a lot of people has sort of gone into like a dormant stage, but that doesn't mean dead. It doesn't mean it's not happening. It just means it's going into a place of subconscious work. And I think Ovations giving us this opportunity is allowing us to let the subconscious reemerge, or let the subconscious material emerge into conscious form again, and to make it external and make it something that is not just something that's living in my body and my mind, and like the panic of March and April that was happening when COVID was hitting and with everything going on. And so I'm excited and also super curious to see, after feeling the changes as an individual artist and seeing the changes that are happening all around me and other people, what that looks like this year. It's a way of processing, I think.
Great, thank you. Kevin, did you get enough answers and we can move on to the next question? Okay, he's back out, but we have Bob Keys coming up. Welcome, Bob, from the Press Herald.
Hey, thank you very much. Good to see everybody. I have a few questions. I want to start by asking, what is the plan for presenting all this work? I know it's going to be created over the course of the next year and a half, 2 years. When are we going to be able to see it, and in what format and where?
So I'll answer that in global fashion. Yes. Obviously, all of this is predicated on a couple of things. One is when it will be safe to gather again, but also more importantly, it's about what this art will need, both in time and space to reach completion. So we're not pinning anybody down to say, okay, by January 1, 21, you need to be ready to be in a proscenium theater. That is not the point. We're really trying to make sure that there is room for everybody and for everybody's art to find the place that it needs to find. And that's part of our job really at this point, is to nurture that progress and to think and help be thought partners and creative partners and financial partners, and then finding what that space is, literally and figuratively. I mean, as Riley mentioned, his space may be going towards the virtual, continue to go through film. So whether that means figuring out what the biggest side of a building is to put this film on, or again, putting it inside a theater, if that's what it calls for, if that's what his work wants, that's what we'll be doing. But we don't have, this is a work in progress, both in terms of the creation of the art, but also in how it will be presented finally. But we're in it for the long run. We see it to be, we imagine it will probably be at least a 2 to 3 year process, a year creation, and then 2 to 3 years for the actual presentations, depending on the needs of each piece and project.
And a follow-up to that, and I apologize for having this to be another sort of administrative question as opposed to an artistic question, but Amy, Portland Ovations is generally a presenting organization, and now you're producing work. What kind of shift does that mean for Portland Ovations in terms of both your budget and just how you do business? You're different. Obviously you're doing things different now, but it seems the mission almost is maybe shifting a little bit. Is that fair, accurate, or?
Well, I would say, again, yes. I mean, we've been commissioning for over a decade, and our biggest ambitious commissioning project to date was The Summer King with Maine composer Dan Sonnenberg. So this is not new territory. What I think is new is that we're investing in a number of artists at one time, and to really show the fullness of the artistry, and as Mary Ellen said, the brilliance of work here in Maine. So there is that fullness to it. And right now it is, I would say, when you look at our organization and look at what we're doing, this is probably about 50% of our organization right now. And I don't just mean financially, I mean in terms of the programming and the resources and the staff and how we're moving forward. This is a big piece of who Ovations is right now. And this will continue to be a big part of Ovations, even as conditions continue to evolve.
Okay. Thank you.
But I would say the thing that's key is supporting artists is always the point, and presenting artists whenever and however we can do that. We just feel incredibly fortunate right now to be able to be at the front end of the creation of these works.
Go ahead.
I was going to say also on behalf of the board to let you know, we really felt strongly Ovations is exactly the organization who can be doing this work. It's not as if you look at the diversity of the genres, the people represented, this is not just something this year because all of a sudden all of these different things like Black Lives Matter and everything were happening. Ovations has been very intentional over a number of years. It's actually part of the reason I joined the board, was that I saw this process of really looking at the arts and representation, who is creating the art, who is in the audience. So as much as I wish it wasn't because of the pandemic that we're in this moment, if there is any organization in Maine that is uniquely positioned to take this on and do it in an authentic way, it is Ovations, and the board is 100% behind these projects.
So much so that the board released, we're using our own resources to do this. This isn't something we fundraised out front of. This is something that the board said, yes, we believe in this, and we will we will make resources available.
We do have a couple of other questions here. Sorry, Bob, were you going to say something?
No, go ahead. Nope, take other questions.
No, that we have one question about what format these performances will be in, which Amy, perhaps you can speak to about the schedule coming up and then next year. And then Kathleen Harrison, while you're answering that question, Katie, would you please bring Kathleen Harrison on the screen? Thank you.
So the immediate presentation mode will be that in January, we will do a series of Meet the Artist events. So you'll hear from the artist even more fully than you're hearing today. And that's going to be the week of January 11 through 15. We're going to do a series of lunchtime chats with each project having a lunchtime so that you can hear, again, more in depth about what the project is and some evolution from what even you heard today. And then in April and May, we will do work in progress showings. And those will take, we don't know exactly what shape they will be. We are planning for the virtual, and if it makes sense to be live, then we will be live. And then, as I mentioned earlier, the final presentations will take place in the next 2 to 3 years, and we don't know what those will look like until the pieces are done.
And Catherine, you had a question.
Hi, I'm very excited by this and fascinated, and just wondered if you could share a little bit of the process of choosing these very impressive artists. Who was on that committee? How did it work?
I would say it was a very organic process in that as soon as we decided to go in this direction, we had lots of input from board and staff, and I mentioned earlier, as well as community partners, such as our friends at Indigo Arts Alliance. So this was really something where everybody had suggestions, and every suggestion came with another suggestion. So we really, what I wanted to achieve for all of us at the end was the diversity of shape and form and scale and voices. As Mary Ellen said, that is the hallmark of Ovations, that we do have that diversity of presentation. So, you know, we have music, we have dance, we have theater. And that was really what we were aiming for, is to have, just to really have it be as representative of the arts here in the state, both artistically, culturally, and again, scale as well. Some of these are big, ambitious projects, right, folks? And some of them are small and intimate. So that, again, those are the things that were really interesting to us, is to be able to make sure that also audiences will have very different experiences as well. So whether, again, you're in a proscenium with a full-blown musical, or you may be in an intimate concert experience, or you may be in a field watching something on the side of a building. All of these things are possible, and that's what we were in the final curation process was really thinking about, is what those possibilities could be.
Thank you.
And I'd also just add that all of these artists have amazing track records too. These are artists who do incredible work. Some of them would normally be in Europe right now touring, or at least throughout the United States. So that's the other thing that we were really thinking about, was a combination of artists where this would be potentially a life-changing or career-changing opportunity, as well as those that are already working, but it gives them a different way to work.
And Amy and Mary Ellen, it looks as if we're ready to close up here. I don't see any more questions in the chat or in the Q&A. We will be issuing a press release about this, and we do welcome follow-up from the media, and I'll let Amy take us out.
All right. So as I mentioned, just again, to mark your calendars for that special week in January, January 11 through 15, in which we will have our series of lunchtime chats. And then we will continue to announce the work in progress showings that will happen later in the spring. And I think we will also be just looking for ways along the way to invite our audiences into the creative process and to think about and engage with these artists and their work. So thank you everybody for joining us today, and especially thank you to the artists who are giving much more than any of us can imagine.